Hi, I'm Joe Miller, and welcome to this Hatha yoga class. In this class, we're going to be focusing on a pose called Parivrtta Jana Shirshasana, which means revolved Jana Shirshasana. Jana is knee, Shirsha is head, so sometimes described as revolved head to knee pose. It involves a kind of a side bending and rotation, and involves some flexibility in the hips, a little bit of hamstring flexibility. So we'll be working on all of those things in this class today. I'm joined by Lindsay and by Krista, and thank you all, both of you, so much for joining me. We are going to begin lying down on the back. You can have your head this way towards the top end of the mat, and you can bend your knees and place your feet on the floor and have your hands down alongside your hips. And just take a few moments to kind of allow the weight of your body to settle into the support of the floor. So you can feel that contact, and how the floor is holding you up. As you breathe out, and imagine that your exhalation settles your weight a little bit more profoundly into that support that you can find from the floor. And then you can take note of the feeling of the back of your pelvis resting against the floor, the sensation of the back of your rib cage on the floor, feel the weight of your head. And then perhaps as you breathe out, you can even begin to sense that there's a little bit of a settling of the places between those sort of larger parts of the body. So perhaps the vertebrae of the lower back can relax a little bit toward the floor. Maybe a few more of the lower ribs can kind of come to rest. And even imagine perhaps that the vertebrae of the neck have a little bit of weight, letting them settle. And then as you bring your attention to your breathing, you can use that contact of the floor to remind yourself that there is a possibility of breathing into the back of your body. We often forget that. We have a lot of lung tissue in the back. So you can probably feel this most clearly in the back of your rib cage. As you breathe in, could you feel your ribs expand outward and widen into the floor? And then again, as you breathe out, settling. It may be a little bit less clear to feel that movement in the lower part of your back, because that's likely lifted up away from the floor. That's just the normal shape of your spine. You don't have to try to change that. But as you breathe in, could you even imagine that your lower back kind of widens and expands backward a little bit toward the floor? And then your upper back. You might feel maybe as you breathe in, perhaps your sternum or the breastbone rising toward the ceiling. But can you also pay attention to the feeling of the upper back moving into the floor? So cultivating a sense of a kind of a three-dimensional breath, not just in the front, but in the back and the sides of the body. And then we're going to move through bridge pose a few times. So you might need to reposition your feet a little bit, bring them perhaps a little bit more into a position where you feel like you can use your feet pressing into the floor to help your hips to lift. And then as you inhale, lift your hips into the air and reach your arms overhead. So you reach the arms toward the floor over your head. That's it. And then as you exhale, you can bring the hands down alongside you and lower your hips back down to the floor. Do that a couple of times. So inhaling, your hips lift, your arms reaching overhead. Exhaling, you lower the hips and you bring the arms back down. Let's do that one more time. And then pause here, and with the hips lifted, see if maybe you can kind of reach up a little bit more through your right hand. Can you lengthen a little through the right side? Maybe you'll push your left foot into the floor to help you to find that diagonal. And then do the same thing with the left arm. Can you reach up a little bit through the left arm? And then back and forth a few times, one arm and then the other, kind of feeling how you can kind of almost sort of move your upper back against the floor like I don't know, like if you were a bear kind of scratching your back against a tree. And then can you reach up through both arms? And then can you slowly begin to lower your rib cage down to the floor? Try to feel one vertebra at a time landing. And then you're going to feel probably your lower back will want to come down in a single piece, so that's okay. But if you can even articulate a little bit through that part of the spine, that's helpful. And then with your next exhale, hug your right knee towards your chest. So you can wrap your hands around the back of your thigh. So you're kind of around the back of the knee. Just hug the knee in. You can move the knee out and in a few times. Just feeling how you can kind of either rock a little bit. Again, maybe you give the upper back a little bit of a massage as you do that. As you move the knee a little in and out to the right and to the left. That's it. Good. Okay. And then cross your right ankle over your left thigh. And now hug your left thigh in towards your chest, wrapping around behind the back of the left thigh. We'll take a couple of breaths here. You can use your right elbow to just very gently press a little bit against the right inner thigh. You're still breathing, so don't get so caught up in the pressure of the elbow that you forget about your breathing. And then with your next exhalation, start to lengthen your left leg. So you reach your left foot toward the ceiling. And your leg may or may not straighten all the way, doesn't really matter. Let's do that a few times. You can inhale and bend the knee. And then exhale, extend your left leg. And twice more like that. Inhaling and exhaling. One more time. Inhale and exhale. And then a few times, point and keep the left leg more or less extended so your foot's pointing up toward the ceiling. And then just point and flex your left foot a couple of times. Yeah, and then I saw Lindsay wanted to draw some circles with her toes, so go ahead and do that. Draw some circles on the ceiling with your left toes. Circle around the other way. And then lower the left foot down to the floor. Uncross your right ankle and place your right foot on the floor. Keep the hips down now as you inhale, reach the arms overhead. See if you can feel that this lift of the arms helps to make a little bit of space in the upper part of the rib cage. Maybe you can feel those upper ribs under your armpits. And then reach up a little bit more through your right hand and a little more through your left hand a few times. Again, like a sort of like a bear scratching on a tree. Can you kind of feel that movement in your upper back? And then with your next exhale, hug your left knee in towards your chest. Take your hands around behind the back of the thigh. And a few times you can just move the knee a little bit in and out. You can make some little circles with the knee. I see Lindsay doing that, so that's fine. And if you're doing that, just change the direction. But just kind of feeling how can your left thigh bone move in your hip socket? Kind of what's the range of movement that just feels easy and well lubricated and kind of simple? And then cross your left ankle over your right thigh and hug your right thigh towards your chest. Take a few breaths here. Once again, you can use your left elbow to just kind of, maybe it reaches and maybe it doesn't reach the thigh. If it doesn't reach, doesn't matter. But if it's there, you can kind of just use the elbow to perhaps just gently press out a little bit. Do you want a little help? All right. So I'm just going to give Krista a little hands-on adjustment. I'm just going to bring her right foot up against my thigh, and then I'm just giving her just a very slight pressure. I'm just kind of slightly bending my left knee, and she'll tell me if that feels good. All right. I don't want to go too far, but just kind of, but otherwise it gets sometimes a little bit hard to hold on to the thigh, like you feel like you're working your fingers a lot to hold on. So see if you can relax your fingers. There you go. Okay. And then a few times, as you exhale, you'll extend your right leg. And then as you inhale, you can bend the knee. And a few times like that. Just bending and straightening. By the way, I asked both Lindsay and Krista before class if hands-on adjustments were okay, so they both kind of wanted a little bit of hands-on assistance, but I just want to emphasize that. All right, and then the next time you extend the leg, we probably did it a few more times on that side, but that's okay. Point and flex your foot a few times. Oh, all right, I feel like Krista maybe needs a little bit of help holding her leg up there. I'm just going to use my forearm maybe just to give her just a little stretch to the calf. Does that feel okay? But otherwise she's kind of a little bit struggling to hold on to the leg. So, good. All right, and then we'll bend the knee and lower the right foot down. Uncross your. Oh, did we bend and straighten the leg? We did that. Bend and. What do we call that? Flexing and pointing the foot. We did that. Okay, good. All right. All right, let's roll up. Draw both these in towards your chest. You can rock a little bit right and left here. Just pick a direction that would seem to make sense to you and roll over to that side, and then find your way up into a seated position. So coming upright. We'll sit cross-legged. A lot of people will tend to struggle with sitting cross-legged. So one thing that can make it a little bit easier is to elevate the hips. So you can take a blanket and place it underneath the hips. And then from there, you can take your hands, your hands right to the upper thighs, and just see if you can just give yourself a little bit of a gentle rolling of the thighs out. You can use the hands to roll the thighs outward a little bit. And then you can move the hands a little further down the thighs and roll them out, and a little farther down the thighs and kind of roll them out, and just kind of using your hands to help define that, what we call external rotation of the thighs. Okay, and then you can just rest your hands on your knees. Take a few moments to, again, settle yourself in this seated posture in the same way that you found the support for your back from the floor. You can find some support for your pelvis here from the floor. As you exhale, can you invite the sitting bones, the bottom of the pelvis, to drop into the earth? And just see if maybe that gives back just a sense of lift and lightness through your spine. And then observing your breathing. And again, could you imagine that you could breathe into your back? And so it's not, the movement isn't just in the front. Can you have a sense of moving into the space behind you with your breath? And maybe that helps you to feel like you can really center yourself on top of your pelvis. Join your palms in prayer over your heart. And then as you inhale, open the arms wide out to the side. So you're going to open both arms out to the side. You're going to reach out through your fingers like, I don't know, like you were a fisherman and you were like, oh, I just caught a fish that was this big. And then from there, we'll rotate the palms to face up toward the ceiling. See if you can roll your biceps up toward the ceiling so the upper arms roll externally. The arms can remain straight. I know they're a little heavy, but we're not going to stay here for too long. And then as you exhale, find the opposite movement. Can you turn the palms down and maybe even backward, and feeling how the upper arms can rotate internally, and a few times like that. So internally and externally rotating the arms. And I'm just going to kind of give Krista a little bit of support for her arms, because I know they get awfully heavy when you're holding them out in the air like that. And maybe that will allow her to just relax the shoulders a little bit. There we go. Good. All right, and then the next time you turn the palms up, sweep the arms up alongside your ears. And just like you did lying on your back, could you reach up a little more through your right hand and reach up a little more through your left hand, and kind of climbing up the tree with your upper back, getting a little bit of space under the armpits. And then with your next exhalation, take your right hand out to the floor, out to your right, and side bend to your right. So you're lengthening your left arm alongside your left ear. And you might find that as you do this, that maybe there's a little bit less weight in the left hip. So can you use the pressure of the right hand into the floor to ground the left hip? And that's it. So you're really lengthening the whole left side. Good. Okay. As you exhale, just take your left hand to the outside of your right thigh, upright your spine, walk your right hand behind you, and you're going to take a twist to the right. So the left hand will be on the outside of the right thigh. That's it. Just around, and that's it. And you can kind of use your hand to help you to turn. That's just a very simple, easy twist. Oh, that's a nice idea, Krista. As you inhale, look forward. Maybe your right shoulder can come forward a little as you do that. As you exhale, can you look over your right shoulder and twist? No, your right shoulder. So you're looking behind you. Do that a couple of times, and maybe you can feel you bring the shoulder forward a little, and then take the right shoulder back when you look back. That's it. One more time like that. Good. Okay, and then keep both hands back behind you. Sweep your left hand behind you, so both hands are behind you. Can you roll the shoulders back and lift your chest? And then as you exhale, you'll fold forward over your legs. You can sweep the hands forward and just take a couple of breaths here. Again, if you notice that your sitting bones are lifting, you can use the pressure of your hands into the floor. Oh, I feel like, well, Lindsay, do you want a little help keeping the hips down? So I'm just going to bring the heels of my hands just under the upper rim of Lindsay's pelvis. I'm kind of keeping my fingers extended, so I'm not letting them rest on her. And then I'm just giving her a little weight in the pelvis, and she'll tell me if that feels nice or not. Yeah. All right, good. All right, I'm still breathing also as I'm giving this adjustment. All right, and then walk your hands back in. Bring yourself upright. Join your palms in prayer. And as you inhale, open the arms wide. I caught a fish this big. And then, again, a few times, rotate the arm bones in the shoulder sockets. A couple of times like this. All right. And then the next time you turn the palms up toward the ceiling, as you inhale, sweep the arms up. And then as you exhale, we'll side bend to your left. Taking a few breaths here. Again, you can lengthen along the right side. You probably will find that as you settle into this, that your left elbow will bend. You might need to perhaps readjust where the left hand is, so you feel like you've got a little room there to let the left shoulder release down. And then take your right hand to the outside of your left thigh, and then walk your left hand back behind you and bring yourself upright, and then we'll turn into the twist. And let's do that head thing again. So as you inhale, look forward. You can bring your left shoulder forward a little, and then as you exhale, you'll look back and you can let the left shoulder roll back. A couple of times like this. Twisting is great because it really helps to kind of mobilize the spine of the upper back, what we call the thoracic spine of the rib cage, between the shoulder blades. Good. We'll need that for that pose of Parvritajana Shishasana that I mentioned at the beginning. And then the next time you turn towards the left, we'll just pause there. All right, keep your left hand behind you, swing your right hand behind you. Lean back into your fingers, you can broaden the chest. And then as you exhale, we'll sweep the hands forward and fold over. And again, just take a few breaths to settle over the legs. If you find your sitting bones are lifting, you can always kind of imagine you're pushing the floor away with your hands to give you a little more weight. Do you want a little more weight, Krista? Okay. Does that help? Mm-hmm. All right, good. All right, and then walk your hands back in. Switch the crossing of your legs. Put the other leg in front, so the one that's probably not the way that you like to sit. All right. We'll run through all that a little bit more quickly this time. So starting with the palms in prayer in front of the heart. As you inhale, open the arms wide. And then exhale, you can turn the palms down and backward. Maybe you let the spine round a little bit and look down as you do that. And then inhale, turn the palms up and let the chest lift. 2 more times like that. So adding a little bit of a cat-cow movement to this. 1 more time. And then as you inhale, sweep the arms overhead, letting the chest lift. Exhale, side bend to your right. To your right, yes. Take an inhale to lengthen through your left side. Exhale your left hand to the outside of your right thigh. As you inhale, walk your right hand behind you, uprighting the spine. And exhale and twist. Inhale, look forward, bring the right shoulder forward. Exhale, take the right shoulder back as you look back. This time, just look forward, and then sweep your left hand behind you. With your next inhale, lift your chest, and as you exhale, sweep the hands forward and fold over the legs. Just take one inhale here, one exhale to settle into gravity, and then as you inhale, walk your hands back in, bring yourself up to vertical, and exhale the hands to prayer. Inhale, open your arms wide, and exhale, you internally rotate the arms, look down, and then inhale, you'll externally rotate the arms, lift your chest. A couple more times like that. So incorporating a little bit of a cat-cow movement into this. Again, getting some movement in the spine of the upper back. With your next inhalation, sweep the arms out and up toward the ceiling. Exhale, side bend to your left. You can inhale to lengthen through the left side. Exhale your right hand to the outside of your left knee. Inhale, walk your left hand behind you, get tall. Exhale and twist. Inhale your left shoulder forward, look forward. Exhale, take your head back as you take the shoulder back. And then we'll inhale, we'll sweep the right hand around behind you. Pause as you exhale, and with your next inhale, lift the chest. And then as you exhale, we'll sweep the hands forward, fold over the legs. One inhale, one exhale to settle into gravity. And then walk your hands back in, and we'll come up onto all fours. So starting with your wrists more or less underneath your shoulders, your knees underneath your hips. And then a few rounds of cat and cow here. So as you inhale, you can kind of lift your chest, look forward toward the front of the mat. As you exhale, you round the back, and you're kind of looking back between the legs. A couple of times like this, cat and cow. I mean, I'm kind of instructing this by talking about where you're looking, but really that's not the important thing. So it's not so much that we're focused on the movement of the head, right, but feeling how the whole spine can move. In fact, perhaps you could even sense that you could kind of make the movement of your pelvis and your head proportional. So your head doesn't move more than your pelvis. All right, and then just come into what feels like a neutral spine. And then from there, you're going to cross your left forearm across your mat so that it's parallel to the front of the mat. That's it. And then you're going to walk your right hand forward and lower your forehead onto your left forearm. So your hips will still be in the air. It's not a child's pose, but it's perhaps a little bit of a feeling like a downward facing dog. Perhaps you can crawl your right hand a little bit further forward. The right hand, that's it. And you can even come up onto the fingertips of the right hand and make like kind of like a, I don't know, like a spider out of your hand. And then let the palm come down, but can you keep all that reach out through the fingers? See if you can even a little bit grasp the floor with the fingers, and then draw the hips back so the whole right side elongates. Find some breath in the right ribs. And then walk your right hand back in, and we'll switch to the other side. So you're going to place your left forearm across your mat, more or less parallel to the front of the mat. Walk your left hand forward, rest your forehead on your right forearm. Come up onto the fingertips of the left hand for a moment, and really feel you can create a little bit of lift underneath the arm, I should say. And then lower the palm down. And then can you grip the floor lightly with your fingerprints and draw the hips back and find some breath, some space for breath in the left side of the chest. And then walk your hand back in, come back up to vertical. Cross your right forearm across your mat again, sort of similar to what we were just doing. But this time we're going to move into a twist. So the right forearm is on. Did I say that wrong? We started off with the left forearm. Put the left forearm on the mat. Sorry, left forearm on the mat. I knew I was saying it wrong. And then you can press your right hand into the floor out to your right, like you're doing a push-up. And then you can take a twist towards your right this way. So this is one option, yeah. The other option would be you could slide your left arm all the way out to the left and rest your left ear on the mat and then press the right hand into the floor to help to twist toward the right. So if you take this arm and kind of bring it under your shoulder like that. So that's another option. And if it's too much to bring the head down to the floor, just stick with the forearm on the floor version. And then you might notice that maybe your left ankle wants to move towards your right ankle. So go ahead and do that. In fact, cross your left ankle over your right ankle. You might find maybe a little more length through the left side of the rib cage when you do that. Now, can you press the right hand on the floor, turn the chest to the right, but return the left ankle back to its starting position? Yes, you might find the twist has to deepen a bit to do that. All right, and then we'll come back up onto the hands, back to hands and knees, and then we'll switch over to the other side. So again, you've got two options. One would be the left forearm on the floor, pressing oh my gosh, I keep saying that wrong. The right forearm on the floor, pressing the left hand into the floor to turn, or you'll bring your right shoulder to the floor and twist that way. And that's it. All right, well, we might as well let the right ankle come over on top of the left ankle, finding a little more length through the right ribs. Can you stay in the twist as you return the right ankle back in line with the right knee? Oh, it's a little harder to turn that way. You have to find kind of where in the upper back can you turn. And then we'll bring both hands back to the floor. All right. And now lower your forehead to the floor and walk both arms forward toward the top of your mat. So sometimes we call this a puppy pose. It's like a version of downward facing dog. Grip the floor with the fingers just lightly. Draw the hips back and up, finding length through the sides of the rib cage and through the sides of the waist. And then walk your hands back in. Extend your legs back to a plank position, and from there push back into downward facing dog. Take a few moments to pedal your feet in place here. So bend one knee, lengthen the opposite leg, and then switch back and forth a few times. You can even add a little twist into this. So when you bend the right knee, maybe you can look underneath the left armpit. And then when you bend your left knee, you can look under the right armpit. And just feeling again, can you find some length through the sides of the rib cage, through the sides of the waist? Good. And then just settle into this. Inhale and move forward into a plank pose once again. As you exhale, lower your knees to the floor, bring your chest down to the floor. And then from there, you'll slide your chest forward and up to come to just a small cobra. You can bring all 10 toenails to the floor. And then as you exhale, push back into child's pose. Interlace your fingers behind the back of your pelvis. You can turn the palms toward the ceiling here, but just letting the back of the hands rest on the pelvis. And then maybe you can allow the elbows to have a little bit of weight. The elbows will sink towards the floor. You might even feel that the shoulder blades kind of drop towards the floor. And then once again, maybe there's an opportunity here to breathe into the back. And then we'll start to lift the shoulders away from the floor. Can you start to roll the arms out? So you roll the biceps out, turn the palms toward each other, and start to lengthen the elbows. You can continue to let the head rest on the floor if you can do that comfortably, and then maybe the arms lift toward the ceiling. That's it. And then release the hands, slide your hands forward, lift your hips enough that you can tuck your toes, and push to downward facing dog. Nothing wrong with bending your knees in downward facing dog. That might help you to find a little more lift through the sitting bones. Good. Okay. And then let's actually start to walk the hands back towards the feet. If you found yourself off your mat, you can just walk forward a little bit. So you're on your mat, hang over your legs. Put a pretty generous bend in your knees. Hold opposite elbows. Let your head relax. Maybe you can sway a little bit from side to side here. Yes. Oh, how about a big sigh? That's not a bad idea, Lindsay. Yeah, good. All right. And then start to release your hands down towards the floor. If they don't easily reach the ground, not a problem. You can support them with your block. And then we'll just lengthen one leg at a time. So can you start to kind of lengthen through your right leg, keeping your left knee bent with your left heel on the floor. That's it. And then we'll switch. So you'll start to bend your right knee and then lengthen your left leg. Go back and forth like that a couple of times. So we're just kind of easing into the lengthening of the back of the leg. It really does not matter whether your leg straightens all the way. We're just kind of finding out sort of where do your hamstrings allow your leg to lengthen to at this point in the class, at this moment in time. All right, good. And then the next time you bend your right knee, just go ahead and bend your left knee as well. Release your hands down to the floor. You can set the block off to the side. Walk your hands forward back into downward facing dog. And then, can you find that feeling that you found in puppy pose earlier? Can you press the fingerprints into the floor, draw the hips back and up? And of course, bending your knees might help you to do that. Nothing wrong with that. Inhale, come forward to plank. As you exhale, lower your knees and then your chest to the floor. And then as you inhale, we'll slide forward, a small cobra, and exhale and push back child's pose. Interlace your fingers behind the back of your pelvis. Same thing we did before. You can turn the palms to face the ceiling. Just let the arms have a little weight. Find a little breath in the back. And then can you begin to roll the arms out as you start to turn the palms toward each other and lift the arms toward the ceiling. And then we'll release the hands, slide your hands forward, find your way back to downward facing dog. Again, walk your hands back toward your feet. Hand over hand, and hang over the legs. You can always bring the floor up to you with your block. You can have the knees bent, the head hang. And then let's go back to alternately bending one knee and then the other. And then the next time that you bend your left knee and you lengthen your right leg, could you turn this into a twist? So could you lengthen your chest forward and reach your right arm up toward the ceiling? So the left knee is bent. That allows the left hip to drop down. I'm just going to give Krista a little adjustment here. So I'm bringing my right hand against her right shoulder. I'm taking my hip against her left ribs. My heel's lifted a little bit. As I lower my heel, I can kind of pull her left ribs around to the right, helping her to turn. Does that feel nice? Yeah. All right, good. And then let's switch sides. So bring the right hand down, and we'll move into the twist to the left. And again, I'm just going to kind of use the side of my hip against the back of Krista's rib cage. As I lower my hip, that might help her to just bring the right ribs around under the left ribs. How's that feel? Good. All right, good. All right, bring both hands down to the floor, and then begin to roll yourself up to a standing position. Good. And we'll find Tadasana for a moment at the back of your mat. And then you're going to take a giant step forward with your right foot and turn your left heel to the floor, turning your left toes to the left to set up for Warrior Two. And then if you need to wiggle your right foot forward a little bit more so you have your knee sort of more or less on top of your ankle, you might need to do that. So maybe it had to be an even more giant step. Oh, that's perfect. That's great. How about if we rotate the palms up toward the ceiling and see if maybe that allows the shoulders to relax a little bit? Oh my God, those arms are so heavy. All right, just from your elbows, can you turn the palms down? But can you keep that sense of the softness in the shoulders? I mean, they have to work, of course, but they don't need to overwork. Good. Okay. And then with your next inhalation, straighten through both legs, turn the palms up and reach the arms up toward the ceiling. And then as you exhale, land back into Warrior Two, looking out over your right fingers. There we go. Good. All right, a couple of times like that. Inhaling and exhaling. Good. And one more time. Inhale and exhale. Good. Let's inhale, straighten through both legs. Bring your hands to your hips. Pivot your right toes in so that you have your toes pointed towards the left side of your mat. And then from there, bring your heels in a little bit. So your toes are pointed out a little. Start to bend your knees. And then you're going to think about kind of tracking the knees more or less in the direction of the toes. So if you have to adjust the position of the feet, do that. Let's bring the palms to prayer in front of the heart. Good. Straighten the legs. Reach the arms up and out. Make a big X shape with your body. Exhale back, bending the knees, hands to prayer. 2 more times like that. Inhale and exhale. 1 more time. Inhale and exhale. Good. All right. Maybe you can settle in a bit more deeply. Remember that feeling of rolling your thighs out with your hands that you found at the beginning of class? Yeah, sure. Why not? You could use your hands to do that. Yeah, maybe you can even help that a little bit. There we go. Oh my gosh. Maybe you feel those muscles working there. All right, good. All right, let's straighten the legs. Parallel your feet once again. Just exhale, fold forward. Bring your hands down toward the floor. If they don't reach the ground, not a problem. You've got your blocks to bring the floor up to you. Hang over the legs. Oh, that's a nice idea, Krista. Let's do that. Can you keep your legs extended and can you lift your right hip a little bit toward the ceiling? And then could you lift the left hip a little bit toward the ceiling? And kind of like this, a little bit side to side. So there's a little rocking movement of the pelvis. Always good to, make sure we have the possibility of movement in a posture, that we're not into it so deeply that we're completely stuck. All right, and then go ahead and fold forward and see if you can kind of imagine that the back of the pelvis could be more or less level. All right, inhale, extend your chest forward. Walk your hands around towards your right foot. Pivot around into a lunge. Lower your left knee to the floor. Take a twist to your right. Bring the right arm up toward the ceiling. Yes. Press into your left hand and see if you could lift a little bit out of your left shoulder. Oh, that's nice, Krista. Very nice. Good. All right. And then let's bring the right hand down to the floor and tuck your left toes under, lift your left knee. As you exhale, just start to lengthen through both of your legs. And then inhale and bend your right knee. We'll do that a couple of times. So again, you might find that having the blocks underneath the hands makes it a bit easier for you to stay connected to the ground. And if you don't have that connection to the ground, it's often very difficult to really feel like you can be stable. All right, the next time you lengthen your right leg, we'll pause there. And then as you inhale, bend your right knee, set the blocks to the side, step back, downward facing dog. Inhale, move forward into a plank. As you exhale, lower all the way to the floor. Rest your forehead on your hands. Bend your right knee. With your right hand, reach back and take hold of your right ankle. You can draw the heel in towards the right hip for a few moments. And then start to do the opposite. Start to push the right foot into the right hand. Lift your chest and head. Your left forearm is there to help to support you. And if you need to readjust the position of the left forearm so it can help you to lift up, do that. Good. And then we'll lower down and release the right leg. And let's switch over and do the other leg. So bending the left knee, reach back, take hold of the left ankle. Just for a moment or two, you can draw the heel in and then start to press into your right forearm. Press your left foot into your left hand. Lift your chest. As you exhale, lower down. Again, rest for a breath or two with your forehead on your hands. Letting go of the leg. And then bring your hands into place alongside your rib cage. Curl up to a small cobra. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Good. Walk your hands back towards your feet. Hang over your legs for a few breaths. Maybe it feels a little easier for the legs to lengthen, although, of course, they don't need to fully straighten at all. And then softening your knees, can you roll yourself up to stand? Finding Tadasana at the back of your mat. A giant step forward with your left foot. Turn your right heel down to the floor and open the right toes toward the right side of the mat. Open your arms wide, warrior two. Once again, if you roll the biceps toward the ceiling and turn the hands up, can that allow the shoulders perhaps to relax just a bit? I mean, it's not that they're not going to be working. They have to work to hold your arms up, but can they do that without having to overwork? And then turn the palms down, so settling into warrior two. Good. As you inhale, straighten your left leg, reach your arms toward the ceiling. Exhale back, warrior two. A couple more times like that. Inhale, exhale to warrior two. Again, inhale, exhale to warrior two. Good. And then inhale, straighten the left leg. As you exhale, hands to the hips, pivot your left toes in. So find that parallel straddle, and then bring the heels in, both heels in a little, so the toes angle out. Allow the knees to bend. Yes, maybe you settle in. I mean, maybe it's a little deeper than it was before. All right, as you inhale, straighten both legs, open the arms out, big X shape. Exhale, hands to prayer as you bend the knees. Again, inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Good. We'll settle in here for a breath or two. You might feel your leg muscles working. That's okay. That's why we do standing poses, right? Is to build the stamina in the legs. All right, maybe that's enough stamina building. Let's straighten the legs, parallel the feet. Exhale, fold forward. Release the hands down toward the floor. And then with your next inhale, you can extend the chest forward, walk your hands around towards your left foot, pivot around to a lunge, lower your right knee to the floor, twist to your left. Bringing the right side of the rib cage toward the left inner thigh as you breathe out. And then we'll bring the left hand down to the floor, tuck your right toes, lift your right knee. As you exhale, you'll lengthen through both legs. So the left foot remains forward, and you're just lengthening through that leg. And then as you inhale, you'll bend the left knee, and then exhale and lengthen in a few times like that. Again, like I said, I just want to emphasize that although I'm saying lengthening the leg, it's a direction. It's not a destination. Your left knee might lengthen all the way or it might not. You're just kind of finding out where you can get to easily. The next time you lengthen the left leg, pause there. And then with your next inhalation, bend the left knee, step back to downward facing dog. Inhale, move forward into a plank position. Exhale, lower all the way down to the floor. Again, rest your forehead on your hands. Bend your right knee. Take hold of your right ankle. Press your right foot into your hand. Can you lift the chest and the head? And then if you want a little extra challenge, maybe you can reach your left arm forward alongside your left ear and float the left leg up in the air. So a kind of a half locust pose, half bow pose. And then as you exhale, lower down. Again, rest your forehead on your hands. You can let go of the right leg. It might feel nice to rock the hips a bit right and left. And then we'll switch over and do the other side. So bending through the left knee, you'll reach back, take hold of the ankle, press your ankle back into your hand to lift your chest. And your leg is doing a lot of the work of holding you up here. So maybe your right arm doesn't have to. Can you reach the right arm long, float the right leg up, or stay with the forearm on the floor? And exhale and lower down. Rest your forehead on your hands. Again, you might want to let the hips rock a little bit. And then bring your hands into place for a cobra. Inhale, curl your chest up. Exhale, push back, downward facing dog. Oh, all right. Maybe we need a child's pose. All right. That's all right. Always fine to take child's pose. Let me see. I'm just going to see if I can maybe kind of help Lindsay find just a little bit more length through her back. So I'm, again, bringing my hands to the back of her pelvis, the heels of my hands just below the upper rim of her pelvis. I'm keeping my fingers extended, and I'm just kind of using my body weight to help to lengthen her hips back and up. How's that feel, Lindsay? All right, good. All right, and then start to walk your hands back towards your feet. Hang over your legs. Soften your knees. Roll yourself up to stand. Giant step forward with your right foot. Turn your left heel down. Turn your left toes out. Warrior two. Let's inhale into a reverse warrior. So flip the right palm up. Bring the left arm down the outside of the left leg. Opening up some space through the right side of your rib cage. Is it possible to scoop the right hip under you as you do that while keeping the left leg elongated? There you go. That's it. All right. And then we'll come into extended side angle, resting your right forearm on your right thigh. Reach your left arm alongside your left ear. There we go. So lengthening now the left side. Good. Very nice. Good. As you inhale, straighten through the legs. Bring both arms up toward the ceiling. Parallel your feet as you bring the hands to the hips. Bring your heels in a little bit. And then you'll start to bend the knees. Lower down. Good. Okay. And then let's see if you can bring your right forearm to your right thigh. And then can you use your right arm to just lightly press the right thigh out a little? There we go. And then we can take the left hand to the left thigh and use the left hand to kind of widen the left thigh out a little. There we go. Good. All right. And then straightening through both legs, bring your hands to your hips, parallel your feet once again. Let's do a different arm variation this time. Interlace your fingers behind your back. Let's start by turning the palms backward, and then can you begin to draw the shoulders back, bring the elbows in toward each other, turn the palms to face each other as you lengthen the arms back, and then exhale and fold forward. Folding over the legs. So now you don't have the support of the hands, right? The legs have to do a little bit more work to hold you up here. As you inhale, you'll extend your chest forward, bring your hands down to the floor, walk your hands around towards your right foot, pivot around to a lunge, lower your left knee to the floor, twist to your right. Maybe you'll bend your left knee and reach back with your right hand to catch hold of your left ankle. And then you might find, maybe that's not happening. Do you want a little help?
Yes.
All right. You're right there. There we go. Good. Now, sometimes it also helps to kind of slide the left knee back a little bit. Yeah, so you're not directly on top of the kneecap. And then, are you okay there? Do you want a little help reaching it? All right, good. Okay. And then, again, I'll just help return a little bit. Oh my gosh, we can still breathe here. Maybe. All right, good. And then bringing both hands down to the floor. Tuck your left toes under. As you exhale, lengthen through both legs. So you're going to keep your right foot forward. You'll lengthen through your right leg. And you just take a breath or two here to fold over the right leg. That's it. Good. Okay, let's bend the right knee. And we'll step back to downward facing dog. Bring your chest forward into a plank. As you exhale, lower all the way down to the floor. All right, you might guess what's going to come next. Let's bend both knees. Reach back, take hold of both ankles. Press your ankles back into your hands to lift into Dhanurasana or bow pose. It's the strength of the legs that helps you to lift. And as you exhale, lower down. Rest for a moment or two. I kind of sensed maybe we were looking for a child's pose earlier, so go ahead and push back to child's pose for a breath or two. You can have the feet together, the knees sort of relatively wide. And then make your way back into downward facing dog. Walk your hands back towards your feet. Bring yourself up to and then roll on up to stand. Giant step forward with your left foot. Turn your right heel down. Turn the right toes open. Warrior two. Inhale, reverse warrior. Couple of breaths here. And then exhale, extended side angle, resting your left forearm on your left thigh, the right arm alongside the right ear, the whole right side lengthening. Can you keep a feeling of the right inner thigh lifting a little bit so you're not kind of falling onto your left leg? There's a feeling of lift from underneath. And then inhale and come all the way up to vertical, straightening through both legs. Parallel your feet. Bring your heels in. Settle down. Good. We'll take the left forearm to the left thigh. Good. You can use your right hand against the right inner knee and use the left elbow and the right knee to just kind of feel gently. We're not trying to force the hips to do anything they're not ready to do here, but can you sense that the thighs could widen out? All right, and then we'll straighten both legs, parallel your feet. Switch the interlacing of the fingers behind your back. Can you draw the elbows back as you lengthen the arms, fold forward. And then bring the hands to the floor. Walk your hands around toward your left foot. Pivot to a lunge. Lower your right knee. You know where we're going. We'll take a twist to the left. Sometimes also it's helpful just to have a little bit of cushioning underneath that kneecap. And if you slide the knee back a bit farther, typically it makes it a little more comfortable, usually on the kneecap. You want to try it on this side? Okay, so we'll bend the knee. There you go. So you're going to bend this knee. That's it. And then you reach back. Right there. There you go. That's it. Good. And then can you roll the left shoulder back? Yeah, that's it. Press into your right hand and lift out of your right shoulder. Oh my gosh. All right, good. Bring both hands down to the ground. Down, lengthen through both legs, folding over your left leg for a breath or two. And then bending your left knee, move back, downward facing dog. Okay. Lower your knees to the floor. Drop your hips toward your heels for child's pose. And then roll on up to sit. Move your hips off to one side and swing your legs around forward. So coming to sit with the legs extended out in front of you. Bend your right knee. Open your right leg out to the right. Now, if the knee's hovering up in the air, sometimes it's helpful to give it a little support. Otherwise, those inner thigh muscles are kind of working to hold the leg up. You may or may not need that. And if you feel like you're struggling to sit upright, it might also be helpful to sit up on something. You can sit up on your blanket. Okay. Aim your chest out over your left leg. Start to walk your hands forward to fold out over your left leg. Just taking a few breaths here to reach out over the left leg. If the left knee needs to be a little bit bent, that's totally fine. And then walk your hands back in and bring yourself up to vertical. Slide your right knee back just a bit farther. Turn your chest toward the right side of your mat. So you're aiming your chest now towards the right. Slide your left arm down the inside of your left leg. So you're reaching towards your left foot, allowing the elbow to perhaps settle down to the inside of the left knee. Reach your right arm alongside your right ear and side bend out over your left leg. This is Parivrtta Jana Shirshasana. Can you rotate the triceps of the left arm toward your face a little bit so the palm is down, and then you're turning the chest open toward the ceiling to the amount that it can. And then for some people, you might even be able to hold on to the left foot with both hands. If you're doing that, then you can actually widen your elbows apart from one another, and maybe that allows the chest to turn. Okay. All right, and then inhale, we'll come back up to vertical. Put your right hand toward the back of your mat. Lean into your right hand and see if you can lift your hips. So you come up onto your left knee, your left foot, your right hand. Reach the left arm alongside the left ear. Yes, that's it. Can make it very dramatic. And then lower the hips back down to the floor. Extend your right leg forward. And we'll switch over to the other side. So bending the left knee open towards the left, turning the chest to face out over the right leg. Walk your hands forward, folding out over your leg. Was it helpful to have the block under the thigh?
Yeah,
okay, there we go. Right, if the floor is not supporting the left thigh, then the muscles in the leg are working to hold the leg up. So again, giving a little support under the knee with a block might be helpful. And then as you inhale, lift yourselves up to vertical. Slide your left knee back just a bit farther. So moving towards Parivrtta Jana Shirshasana, revolved head to knee pose. Slide your right hand down the inside of your right leg, left arm alongside your left ear. Lengthening through the left ribs. Can you find some breath in the sides of the ribs? Did that help before, Lindsay? All right, good. I mean, Lindsay's already so deep into this pose, she doesn't really need to go any farther, but it felt good for her. So as she inhales, I'll just lengthen her rib cage, and as she exhales, we'll guide the right ribs onto the left. Good. Does that help? Okay. And then inhale and bring yourselves up to vertical. Take your left hand toward the back of your mat, lean into your hand, lift your hips, sweeping the right arm alongside the right ear, and then lower the hips down to the floor, and slowly come to lie down on your back. Bend your knees. Just hug both knees in toward your chest. It might feel nice to rock a little bit right and left here. Just kind of massaging the back. Good. And then we'll prepare for Shavasana. So you can start to extend your legs long on the floor. Bring your hands down alongside you. If it's comfortable for you to turn the palms toward the ceiling, you can do that. And you want to feel like you can kind of have the hands in a position where they don't feel like they're kind of crowding the sides of the waist. So you might find you need to take them a little bit away from you. I feel like Lindsay feels like her pelvis isn't quite comfortable, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to see if I can kind of bring her lower back a little bit toward the floor. Does that help? Okay, good. And then we'll lower the legs down. Good. Again, can you feel the support of the floor? For some people, lying with the legs long is not that comfortable. It might feel like it creates a little bit of an arching in the lower back, so putting a blanket behind the knees, sometimes that helps. Okay. Each exhalation, again, an opportunity to settle the weight of the body into the earth. And there's no need to exaggerate your breathing. In fact, in Shavasana, typically the breathing will begin to get kind of fairly quiet as your body settles. And so paying particular attention to the letting of the air out may allow you to settle a little bit more profoundly. And then we can begin to reawaken the body by making some small movements with the fingers and the toes, or rolling the legs in and out. If you've got the room for it, you can perhaps bring your arms alongside your ears, like you're sort of giving yourself a big good morning stretch. Maybe you can reach up a little bit through the right arm and a little through the left arm, and that's it. Good. And then bending your knees, roll over to one side. Turning the face toward the floor, you can then kind of press your hands into the floor and use that to roll yourself up to a sitting position. All right, thank you so much for joining me in this class. Thank you so much to Lindsay and to Krista, and we'll see you in the next class. All right, thanks.